It started as a routine debate, until one sharp comment flipped everything upside down. The studio went quiet, the host froze, and viewers leaned in closer. In just seconds, a powerful voice exposed what no one saw coming. Live, raw, and unfiltered. What was meant to be a discussion turned into a moment that left everyone speechless. You won't believe what was said, or how it all ended. Stay with us, because this clash is unlike anything you've seen before. It began as a regular live TV political segment. The studio was calm, the host introduced the guests, and the topic was one that had been discussed many times before. But this time, the conversation took a sharp turn. What started as a formal debate quickly turned into a tense and unforgettable exchange. The moment caught many off guard, especially because live television leaves no room for edits or corrections. Every word, every reaction, every second is broadcast in real time to millions of people. As the discussion unfolded, the tension began to build. It wasn't loud or chaotic at first, but there was a noticeable shift in energy. One side of the whole debate took a strong position, presenting views with firm conviction. The voice was steady and confident, trying to guide the conversation toward a specific political narrative. For a few moments, it looked like the debate might remain civil, with both sides sticking to the usual back and forth. But that changed, very quickly. The moment that turned the conversation into a viral clash came when a bold claim was made, one that many viewers immediately recognized as controversial. It wasn't just what was said, it was how it was said. The words carried weight and the delivery was firm, but the facts were questionable. The tone used in the statement implied confidence, but it also ignored some key historical and social realities. That's when the other side of the debate decided not to stay silent. Instead of letting the claim go unchecked, the response came swiftly and with undeniable force. The rebuttal was not emotional or personal, it was sharp, intelligent, and incredibly focused. It was the kind of reply that doesn't just push back but actually takes control of the entire conversation. This wasn't just about proving a point. It was about setting the record straight in front of a national audience. Every sentence in the reply was grounded in fact. There was no hesitation. The speaker addressed the claim directly, breaking it down piece by piece with examples, statistics, and historical context. Viewers could feel the shift in power during that moment. The one who responded wasn't just speaking louder. They were speaking with clarity, knowledge, and authority. It was the kind of moment where truth became louder than volume. As the words landed, the camera cut back and forth between the faces of those in the discussion. One side looked caught off guard, even rattled. The other remained calm, collected, and fully in control. The host of the segment tried to move the conversation forward, but it was clear that the moment had already made its mark. People watching at home began taking to social media almost instantly, posting clips, reactions, and their own takes. Within minutes, the exchange became one of the most talked about moments of the day. News outlets picked it up, online discussions exploded, and clips of the moment were shared across platforms with thousands of comments. Some called it a masterclass in how to handle misinformation. Others praised the calm but strong delivery. But almost everyone agreed that this was more than a regular political conversation. It was a turning point. What made the moment so powerful wasn't just the facts or the tone, it was the courage to speak up in real time. Live television puts pressure on everyone involved. There's no chance to rewind, no time to check notes, and no way to soften a message once it's out there. It takes confidence, preparation, and integrity to speak truth in the middle of a heated exchange, especially when the stakes are high. The energy in the studio after the moment was different. It felt like something important had just happened. Even as the segment continued, the earlier exchange remained in the air. It became clear that this wasn't just a win for one side of the debate. It was a reminder of the power of being prepared, of knowing your facts, and of standing firm when it matters most. The impact of the moment didn't stay inside the studio. It traveled far beyond the cameras, into homes, classrooms, and discussions across the country. During the live television broadcast, the discussion started with basic points about political issues that were important to the public. Both individuals brought their ideas to the table, each trying to make their case clear to the audience. One person, however, decided to take things in a more aggressive direction. With a raised voice and strong body language, they presented bold claims meant to stir emotion and prove dominance in the conversation. At first, it might have seemed like these claims would shift the energy in their favor. But what happened next completely changed that expectation. The bold claims weren't just loud. They were loaded with statements that didn't fully line up with facts. They seemed designed to provoke a reaction or perhaps to paint a one-sided picture of the political topic being discussed. These types of claims often get attention in the media because they sound powerful, but they don't always stand on solid ground. When someone tries to control a conversation using half-truths or dramatic language, they take a big risk. If the other side is prepared, those words can quickly be turned against them. And that's exactly what happened. The other speaker didn't rush into a response. Instead, there was a brief pause, just long enough to show calm control. Then, with a voice that was steady and full of purpose, the rebuttal began. It wasn't rushed or emotional. It was thoughtful and direct. The response made it clear that the bold claims would not go unanswered. And most importantly, it showed that facts still have power, even in an environment where emotion often takes the lead. Each point that had been boldly claimed was met with clear, fact-based responses. The speaker didn't just deny the claim, they explained why it was incorrect, offering context and background that gave the audience a much better understanding of the topic. They pointed out the history behind the issue, cited real-world examples, and brought clarity to what had previously been clouded by opinion. The tone was professional, but the message was strong. If you speak boldly without accuracy, you can be challenged and exposed on live TV. This moment had a powerful effect, not only on the people in the studio but also on viewers watching from home. Live television is different from other media because it allows no edits. People get to see the truth unfold in real time. When one person chooses to rely on volume and strong language while the other relies on facts and preparation, the difference becomes obvious. And when that difference is exposed live, it leaves a lasting impression. The person who made the bold claims began to shift their body language. They tried to interrupt at times, hoping to regain control of the conversation. But the damage had already been done. The audience could see which side was better prepared, which side had the stronger position, and which side was reacting instead of leading. The camera showed everything: the hesitation, the frustration, and the moment when it became clear who had truly taken control of the debate. As the discussion moved forward, the person who had calmly delivered the rebuttal continued to guide the conversation. There was no need for yelling or finger-pointing. The facts were doing the work. And when someone speaks the truth with confidence and clarity, they don't need to fight for attention. It naturally comes their way. This shift in energy showed the audience the value of being informed, staying composed, and waiting for the right moment to speak. What made this moment even more powerful was that it happened live. Nothing could be taken back, and nothing was hidden behind camera cuts or scripts. Viewers saw the entire exchange, from the first bold claim to the last factual correction. And once that clip began circulating online, the impact only grew. People shared it not because it was dramatic, but because it showed something rare: truth cutting through noise in real time. The lesson from this moment is simple: boldness alone isn't enough. In fact, if boldness isn't backed by truth, it becomes a weakness instead of a strength. In the world of politics and public speaking, being prepared, staying calm, and relying on facts will always have more power than trying to win a conversation by force. When people see truth handled with care and confidence, it not only changes the outcome of a debate, it also changes minds. In live discussions, especially on television, arguments often rely on how convincing someone sounds rather than what is actually true. When someone speaks with passion and force, it can temporarily impress the audience. But when those strong words are based on weak information, the truth can easily break them apart. That's exactly what happened during this intense exchange. One person made several strong points with confidence, but those points had cracks. The problem wasn't just the way the claims were made, it was the lack of solid facts behind them. And when that weakness was revealed, the entire argument started to fall apart. The rebuttal that followed wasn't just a simple disagreement. It was well-structured and full of clear, powerful explanations. Each claim that had been made earlier was calmly picked apart. Instead of rushing through, the response took time to explain the background of each topic. Where there had been confusion, there was now clarity. Where there had been emotional statements, there were now facts. And where there had been an attempt to mislead, there was now truth. What made this reply even more powerful was its timing and delivery. There was no anger, no shouting, and no effort to personally attack the other person. The tone remained focused and professional. That approach made the facts stronger because it showed that the person responding was not just reacting emotionally. They had come prepared. They understood the subject, and they wanted the audience to understand it too. The rebuttal also pointed out things that had been left out of the original argument. It showed that not only were some facts misunderstood, but others were ignored completely. This is something that often happens in public discussions. A speaker might leave out important context to make their opinion sound more convincing. But when someone else adds that missing context, the story looks very different. In this case, the added details completely shifted the audience's view of what had been said before. For example, one part of the discussion focused on a policy that had been debated in politics for years. The original claim made it sound simple and clear, but the reality was more complicated. The response highlighted the real numbers, the history behind the policy, and how it had affected people in different ways. Once those facts were brought to light, the earlier statement lost its power. It became clear that the truth had been bent to serve a personal opinion. Another powerful part of the rebuttal came when the speaker used real-life examples. Instead of just talking about theories or ideas, they shared actual stories that supported their points. These examples weren't random. They were closely tied to the issue being discussed. That made them hard to ignore. People watching could relate to them, and it helped them understand why the original claims were flawed. As the response continued, the confidence of the person who had made the original statements began to fade. They tried to jump back into the conversation, but the facts had already changed the direction. Once the truth is out there, it's difficult to push it aside. And because this all happened live on television, every viewer got to see the shift happen in real time. There was no chance to edit or remove anything. The facts stood on their own, and they had a bigger impact than any loud voice ever could. The exchange became a lesson in how arguments can be won not by shouting, but by knowing the truth and standing by it. It also showed how important it is to challenge misleading statements when they happen. When someone makes a bold claim and no one speaks up, people may start to believe it's true. But when that claim is met with solid facts and thoughtful answers, the weakness becomes clear to everyone. This moment was more than just a win in a debate. It was a powerful example of how facts delivered calmly and clearly can defeat even the loudest voices. The person who responded didn't need to raise their voice or talk over anyone. They simply spoke the truth, one piece at a time, until the entire argument on the other side collapsed. In that space of clarity, the viewers saw what real debate looks like. It's not about who speaks first or who speaks loudest. It's about who speaks with truth, knowledge, and respect for the facts. When emotions rise during a live discussion, it can be easy to lose focus and let the moment take over. In this situation, as the conversation moved deeper into serious political and social issues, one side began to show visible signs of frustration. At first, it was just a shift in tone, short, sharper responses that hinted something was off. Then it grew into interruptions and repeated attempts to take control of the conversation, even though it was clear the flow had shifted. The facts were not in their favor, and instead of adjusting their argument, they began reacting emotionally, which made their position look even weaker. The reaction was not just about the topic at hand. It was about the growing realization that the ground beneath their argument was no longer solid. As more facts were presented calmly by the other speaker, it became harder to defend earlier claims. And when someone feels cornered, their emotions can take over. That's exactly what happened here. The pressure of being corrected on live TV in front of a national audience can be intense, and instead of regrouping or addressing the facts, the individual began to push back with visible agitation, even trying to redirect the conversation entirely. This type of behavior often reveals more than intended. It shows that the person reacting may not have a strong foundation in their argument. When someone has confidence in their position, they tend to stay calm, even when challenged. But when the response turns into visible anger or frustration, it usually means they've lost control of the moment. That loss of control becomes clear to viewers. Audiences are very good at reading body language and tone. They can see when someone is uncomfortable, defensive, or struggling to find solid ground. And on live TV, where nothing can be edited or fixed after the fact, those signs are impossible to hide. The shift in energy was noticeable. While one speaker remained calm and clear, the other became louder, interrupted more often, and even began to deflect questions instead of answering them. At one point, instead of responding to a direct point, the speaker changed the subject entirely, an obvious tactic used when the original point becomes too hard to defend. This move, however, did not work. The other speaker stayed on track, kept bringing the focus back to the issue, and refused to let the facts be ignored. These kinds of exchanges teach a valuable lesson. In moments of public debate, especially live ones, staying composed is just as important as being knowledgeable. Losing control emotionally can turn a difficult situation into a complete loss. That's because debates are not just about words, they are about presence, tone, and the ability to stay centered under pressure. When one person shows frustration and the other stays steady, it becomes very clear to everyone watching who is in control and who is struggling. What made the moment even more telling was how the audience reacted. Online viewers quickly picked up on the emotional shift. Clips began circulating, highlighting the exact moment when the tone changed and frustration took over. These clips weren't just popular because of the drama. They were popular because they showed something real. People saw someone being exposed, not just by facts, but by their own reactions to those facts. Even as the frustrated speaker tried to recover and regain control, it was too late. The tension had already shifted. The facts were clear. The audience had seen the contrast, and the emotional response had undermined everything that had been said before. Once that happens in a public setting, especially on live TV, there is no easy way to fix it. This moment stands as an example of what happens when a public figure is not fully prepared to be challenged. Confidence without knowledge can only go so far. When the truth appears and challenges that confidence, the result is often panic or emotional reaction. And once someone starts reacting from emotion instead of reason, the strength of their position quickly fades. The calm delivery of facts will always carry more weight than frustration, especially when the world is watching in real time. Live television is a powerful platform. Every word, every gesture, and every reaction is captured in real time, and there's no way to undo what is said once it's out in the open. That's what made this moment so impactful. The exchange that unfolded didn't just take place in front of cameras. It unfolded in front of a national audience, and the power of that exposure turned a heated discussion into a viral moment. The combination of strong facts, emotional reactions, and unexpected revelations created something that people couldn't stop watching, replaying, and sharing. When information is revealed on live TV, there is no script to fall back on and no chance to edit or rethink the delivery. So when a surprising truth was brought to light during the discussion, the reaction was immediate. The audience wasn't just watching a debate, they were watching a live response to being exposed. That type of real-time reaction added fuel to the moment. It was raw, unscripted, and honest, even if uncomfortable. People watching could feel the tension, see the facial expressions change, and hear the shift in voice tone. These unfiltered responses gave the moment authenticity. What followed next made it even more dramatic. As the facts became clear, it was not just the speaker who was affected. Viewers across social media platforms started sharing clips, pulling quotes, and analyzing every second of the exchange. Commentators online began discussing the issue in depth, breaking down what had been said and how it had been said. The story quickly moved beyond just a disagreement. It became a symbol of how truth can rise even when emotions try to bury it. The power of going viral isn't just about how many people see something. It's about how strongly people react to it and how many conversations it sparks. This moment sparked thousands. Across platforms, people were talking not just about the topic itself, but about the way it had been handled. Some viewers focused on the facts that were brought forward. Others focused on the emotional breakdown that followed. Many were struck by the contrast between calm, confident delivery and emotional outbursts. That contrast made the moment even more unforgettable. Media outlets picked up the story almost immediately. Headlines appeared pointing to the viral clash, quoting lines from the exchange and highlighting key points. The moment had moved from one TV segment to a broader public discussion. News commentators debated who was right and why. Clips from the show were replayed again and again, often slowed down to show the exact point where control was lost or where the argument shifted. All of this attention reinforced how powerful that single moment had become. Behind all of it, the most important part remained the truth that was exposed. In the middle of a heated debate, when someone presents facts with clarity and calm and those facts stand strong under pressure, they naturally attract attention. They invite viewers to look deeper, to question what they've heard before, and to seek out more information. That's exactly what happened here. The viral nature of the moment wasn't just because of a strong reaction. It was because that reaction came after something undeniable had been laid bare for all to see. People often say that truth has a way of coming to light, and in this case, that light came through the lens of a live broadcast. It showed how important it is to be prepared, to speak with understanding, and to stay composed even when faced with strong opposition. Those who watched learned not just about the topic being debated, but about the power of communication itself, how tone, timing, and truth all play a part in how messages are received and remembered. Even after the camera stopped rolling, the moment lived on. It spread through timelines, appeared in articles, and found its way into discussions at dinner tables and classrooms. It became more than a political back and forth. It became a lesson on what happens when preparation meets pressure and when facts outshine frustration. Viewers walked away not only entertained, but also more informed and perhaps even more aware of how truth can sometimes speak loudest when it's delivered with quiet confidence.